What is your name and the year you were born?
My name is Bryce Winnett. I was born 26 September 1926.
Can you tell us a little bit about your hometown?
Well, I didn't live in a town. I lived in a rural community. I was born in 1926, and the Depression come along in about 1929 or 1930. And I can't remember any of my life up until 1930, but I began to, I can pick up a lot of it since 1930.
Can you tell us a little bit about your parents?
My parents were people that were, they were born in the late 1800s. And so they were pretty old by the time I was born. And they were not educated people. They had to live the rural life, the hard life, both of them. And that was the way it was in the area that I lived in. People had to work hard, but they didn't have time to get an education. They had to spend all of their time to get money to help try to feed the families.
How and where did you meet your wife?
My wife that I met after being in Germany a while, she was born in a little place outside of Frankfurt, and it was called Need. And it was a suburb of another town, and it was called Hurst. And everything over there is like in the, to get your mail, like we used to have to get mail. It was a pitiful situation. And they would, and there was one or two or three Frankfurts in Germany. And they had Frankfurt on the Rhine, Frankfurt on the Need, and like that. So they lived on Frankfurt on the Rhine. And no, on the Main, I got it wrong. The Main River, which ran into the Rhine River. And she was born there in that small community. And she was born in 1930, and she had a good life from 1930 to 1939. This is a picture of my wife-to-be, and she was approximately 5 years old here, and the little dog, it was her dog Rosie, and they kept the dog for years, and it was her favorite pet. She also had pets of a rooster and other types of animals that escape my being now. And she had fun taking care of her animals and helping her grandfather work in the garden. And here's a picture of Christine as she looked in the later years. This was probably made in about 2008, something like that. And that was her favorite picture, and that's what we used when she passed away in March of this year. I met her at a little music place in Germany. One evening I was walking out from the barracks, going out to just see what I could see that may be going on. I heard music playing in this building, and I went over there to look at it to see what it was. There was an Air Force second lieutenant had gotten 6 German musicians, and they had formed a band, and they were playing the music of the day at that time, and they were really excellent. And later, Christine told me that she was at that little program, but I didn't know. I didn't recognize her at that point. And she told her girlfriend that went with her, said, "Do you see this guy over here with the pretty blue eyes?" She said, "He is going to be my man."
What branch of the military did you serve in?
I served in the Air Force.
Can you tell us what the Berlin Airlift was and how you participated in it?
Well, the Berlin Airlift has a long story to go with it, but with us at that time, all of a sudden, they declared the base was closed. No one could leave the base and go anywhere. And then the word started getting out that Russia had barricaded all of the land, water into Berlin, and the only thing that was open was two air corridors to fly food in. And they started flying food in to Berlin. And it expanded, and pretty soon it was, they had 250 airplanes flying 7 days a week and all night. And they could fly in all kinds of weather. They had fixed the system of the ground control approaches that where they could fly all in all kinds of weather, and it was more like a fun thing. They would race each other to see who could haul the most supplies for a 24-hour period. And my part was just like everybody else. You worked on airplanes. This book right here is a book on the Berlin Airlift and all of the politics that it had to overcome in Washington, and with a lot of things that went on. And the name Candy Bomber comes from a pilot that saw German kids in Berlin overlooking the fences and to see if they would throw anything out to them. Well, this Candy Bomber man, he had some time off, and he walked down to where these children were along the fence, and the only thing he had was one stick of chewing gum, and he broke it into pieces and handed it out to the kids. And some of them would just sniff it to see how it smelled, because they had never seen chewing gum. And in German, it's something like Kaugummi. It's for chewing gum. And when he left, he told the children, he said, "I'll be back tomorrow." And they said, "Well, how are we going to recognize you in the airplane?" He said, "Well, when I come over, I'm going to wiggle the wings of the airplane and throw out whatever I can to you." And so his name became Mr. Wiggly Wing. That was his name to the children. And it went on, and it expanded into every pilot that was flying in the Berlin Airlift would carry some candy wrapped in a handkerchief parachute and drop it out to wherever they were flying over that day, to the German children. At one time, he had 35,000 pounds of candy at his disposal to get used up in Rhine-Main. And so he is the Candy Bomber. And he is still living, but he's in bad shape. And the last 2 or 3 reunions we went to, or that we had, he wasn't able to go. But our reunion coming up in 2016, at the end of September, will be at Great Falls, Montana, and that's a short distance from where he lives, and maybe he may be able to come to the reunion. But he's lived a long life. I'm 89, and I'm one of the younger people of the Berlin Airlift that flew and worked on the airplanes. When the war was over, Germany was pretty well beaten, and we mostly had to walk, or like military, we could hitchhike, but every ride we caught would be in a German vehicle. And I remember one time that I got a ride in a sidecar motorcycle, and the sidecar was built in such a way that I am facing the oncoming cars, and that really warped my brain. I was scared all of the way, but it was interesting too. And Germany at that time had charcoal run engines. Charcoal on the back side of the car had a little tank, and they would put charcoal in it, and it would make a gas, and it would go up on the front end of the car, and it would store it there and run the car. And when the drivers could see that he was running low on gas, he would stop and run around and put a piece of charcoal back in the fire paste. When Christine and I would go downtown on a bus, I was a little feisty little thing then, and so I started singing this song about I've been working on the railroad, except I put my limited German into it, and I would say, Ich bin arbeiten on der Eisenbahn, all die lieblang Tag. Ich bin working on the Eisenbahn. I forgot the rest. And there was another one about the airplanes that I had, but I can't remember all the words, but it was fliegen with a Flugzeug, flying with the airplanes.
What advice would you give to the young people of today?
Get a decent education. That is the ultimate thing in life. And that is what I skipped in my lifetime. I did not get a decent education. I got more of my education when I went into the military. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things.